What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the CombatCast. So, on Saturday, July 29th of 2023, I attended my second ever live MMA event. No, it wasn't one championship. No, it wasn't the UFC. It was actually titled CFC Homeland 2. Now, I know what you're thinking. What is CFC? Well, it stands for Southeast Asia Fighting Championship. So CFC is basically what you would call a grassroots MMA promotion. It's basically a regional promotion, okay? And so far, it's hosted all of its events in Thailand, okay? But, and while they may not be, well known across the country, let alone across the continent, let alone across the world, they've actually had some pretty good fights and events in 3 years, in the 3 years that they've existed. Now, I actually discovered them back in 2020 when I was working at the Muay Thai company. I first came across their Facebook page. I saw their logo. It was pretty sick. I could tell it was like, it wasn't really like, how would you say? It wasn't professionally, designed. It was professionally designed, but I could tell they didn't hire some like fucking high-end, design company to like come up with their logo, but nevertheless it looked badass. And the name Southeast Asia Fighting Championship, there was just something about the promotion's name that appealed to me. I was curious what they offered, but at the time I didn't know how I could access its events. Being me, I would have thought the first place I should have looked was YouTube, but I didn't. But that was until like I would like to think it was 2-3 weeks later, I came across a YouTuber. I still remember to this day. The channel name is Retired and Working for You. So basically, he's an expatriate living in Thailand. I think his video was titled like, I attended an illegal MMA event in Thailand. So basically, this was during like COVID and like when all the lockdowns were like in place. So like there were no events, like no gatherings were allowed. People were like had to stay at home. A lot of people were working from home by then, except for my company, much to my chagrin. But yeah, anyways, enough about that. So I watched Retired and Working for You's video about him attending this underground MMA event. And yeah, he captured a lot of good footage, I remember it took place in a boxing ring, undisclosed location, okay? All I knew was that it was in Thailand. And I remember seeing fighters who would later become my friends, okay? There were 3 MMA fights, okay? One with Jack Ferguson. Good seeing you there, bro. Looking good. Colton Kielbasa. Looked good too, bro. Christoph Kirsch. Sorry, I butchered your name, bro. And Marie Rumette, a Muay Thai fighter who was competing in a boxing match. So yeah. And as fate would have it, about a year later, I would end up meeting those 4 people at a gym. And like, yeah. And then come to find out like a year or 2 later, that event was actually the very first CFC event. And on their Instagram page, they celebrated that event as being the first ever CFC event, okay? And like, it was hosted during lockdown, at the peak, like not the peak, but like during lockdown, COVID lockdown in Thailand. So it was symbolic of, you know, battling through adversity, okay? Like, to have your very first inaugural event being sidetracked by something at the time as major as COVID, and you still managed to pull through, to me, that is very, you know, that's very amazing, and it's crazy. Hold on, I'm gonna try look for the post on Instagram about their inaugural event. They had a post commemorating their very first event and how it was hosted during lockdown. I'm sorry if this takes so long, but I feel like it's very crucial as to why I'm also making this video. Oh yeah, I can't seem to find it, but yeah, it was a fun one. So come to now, I followed several CFC events since then. I've mostly caught it on the YouTube channel Martial Arts Thailand on replay. Yeah, sure, the camera work is far from top notch, but hey, it's free content, and I really appreciate, you know, the fights, the events that they put on. You know, like, these guys may not be, you know, they're definitely no Justin Gaethje, they're definitely no Charles Oliveira, they're definitely no Kamaru Usman or Israel Adesanya, but hey, these guys are just young guys looking for their shot, they're looking for their big break, and I'm glad that CFC and its owner are giving them the opportunity to fight, or giving them a platform, or giving them the chance to fight. And yeah, when I went to the CFC Homeland 2 event, which took place at the Marok gym at Rama 3, I did not expect any of the fights to play out the way they did, okay? So they all ended in finishes. My friend Jack Ferguson, who was originally scheduled to fight, he had something come up, so he was forced to withdraw, and he was replaced with the last-minute guy. And he actually ended up serving as a judge because one of the judges no-show. It just goes to show you how, you know, what kind of a show this was, what kind of an event this was, and the budget they were operating on, so to speak. But, you know, it was a great show, nonetheless. And yeah, but anyways, the fights all ended in finishes. And myself, personally, as a combat sports fan, I love it when a fight ends in finishes. That's my favorite outcome. I don't like it when fights end in decisions because of the longevity, okay? And two, the decisions, let's just say sometimes maybe they get it wrong. Yeah, case in point. Oh yeah, and also my good friend Colton Kielbasa, who I met at Marok early in 2021, served as the referee at this CFC Homeland 2 event. So I'm a pretty small guy, you know, 5'5", metric conversion right over here. But man, Colton, he's 5'4", metric conversion. And Colton was a referee for all of the fights in the card. And there were 2 heavyweight fights, alright? And let's just say he was a snack-sized Herb Dean. He was a snack-sized Big John McCarthy standing between all those fighters, okay? But but Colt did a good job of reffing, okay? If given the chance, I think Colt has all the potential if he were to ref, you know, bigger regional promotions here in Thailand or just in Asia in general, okay? So that's what I gotta say. I'm gonna put up pictures of Colt later of him, you know, refereeing, especially the heavyweight fights. It looked so funny. Yeah. Good job, Colt. And it was a mixture of amateur and professional fights. Now, there was also a title fight for the inaugural CFC Heavyweight Championship, which featured Australian fighter Harry Gretsch and British fighter Stephen Connolly. So Harry Gretsch, he was featured before in my previous episodes. He was infamous for constantly pulling guard in his fight against Arash Mardani on one Friday fights. He was pulling guard so much, probably unnecessarily so, to the point that he finally got disqualified. He was booed off the ring, and when I got to meet him, I actually got to speak with him for a bit. When you actually get to speak to a fighter, you appreciate them for what they do for our entertainment, for my entertainment. I actually went up to him and said, "Hey man, I actually watched your one fight, and I'm sorry it ended the way it did, but your fight tonight," referring to his fight at CFC, I'm like, "You did a really great job, bro." Harry Gretsch, there was definitely much more action in his fight at CFC, and he won the match by submission via Kimura, living up to his nickname, Harry Kimura Gretsch. So he applied a really ironclad Kimura on his opponent, Stephen Connolly. Connolly tried to escape, but in the process, he ended up dislocating his elbow. Unfortunate, but hopefully it's a quick road to recovery for Stephen. So anyways, that's the end of that. But I guess my most interesting encounter was with the owner of CFC, the man who started it all, shall we say, Nick Lee. So I briefly heard about Nick Lee, CFC's owner, from my friend Jack Ferguson, and all I've heard was that he was a Singaporean living in Thailand, and I just, the first thing I was picturing in my mind was like this executive-looking guy in a suit and tie, man. But when I arrived at the event, man, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what he looked like, and then all of a sudden, a guy in a cap, just like a baseball-style cap, if I may say so, cap, t-shirt. He just comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you were the one who reached out to me, right?" And I was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "Oh my God, this is the guy from CFC." So backstory. I'd been like DMing CFC, asking them for some access to, some effort, asking for permission if I could take footage of some events. I'd actually asked the CFC IG if I could borrow Nick for 5 minutes of his time, get him for an interview. And Nick was like, no, he was not what I expected. But hey, as the saying goes, never judge a book by its cover. So I got 5 minutes of an interview with him, and I think I got some pretty good lessons from him. In the 5 minutes I conversed with him. Seems like a cool guy. And I appreciate what he's doing with CFC, okay? He seems to be aware of what CFC is. He's not overly ambitious. He's just he's going with the flow. I like how he's saying, at CFC, we're just one event at a time. And I really appreciate that,
Be told, we do every show one show at a time, because we're not sure. We're not like a super rich promotion backed by millionaires or rich companies. We're actually we're outcast.
He just wants to give these fighters, these prospects who come on his show, he wants to give them a fighting chance of making a name for themselves. And that's what I appreciate.
CFC has two objectives, the reason for the promotion. One is to help young, new athletes elevate their careers into higher heights. We want to see them go to one championship, the UFC, Bellator, PFL, the list goes on. We want to see them, because I was a fighter, and during my time, there wasn't opportunities around. So I want to give it back to the community. And reason number two for CFC is to really elevate the level and show the world what Southeast Asia has in terms of mixed martial arts talent. So that's the two main objectives of the promotion.
But yeah, what I appreciate most about what he's said so far in his interview is that at CFC, we're one event at a time. We're just one event at a time. So he's not overly ambitious. And I feel like that can be applied not just to like fighting and to like as a fight promotion, okay? I feel like this should be applicable to like life, to, planning our lives. Like, I myself wish I could apply his mantra to my own life, whether if it's personal, whether if it's work. Just one step at a time. No need to look far ahead. And I really appreciate that. And yeah, so, and Nick, if you're ever watching this, man, thank you so much. I feel a little more enlightened after our encounter. And I really appreciate what you're doing with CFC. And yeah, so overall, I found my second ever MMA event, CFC Homeland 2, a very entertaining experience. It was the true epitome of grassroots MMA, okay? And there was nothing like large scale. There was the production value. It was like, it's exactly what you would expect. No freaking big strobe lights. No like booming entrance music. It was just like a phone plugged into a speaker. Nick, the owner, was doing the emceeing by himself. And he was like self-aware. And he was completely self-aware. I appreciate his self-awareness, Unlike some of these like other like company or promotion owners who like to keep a straight face, who like try to keep on a certain facade and oh, we mean business. This is no joke. We have big plans. But like Nick is like chill, man. He's laid back the entire event, even when he was emceeing, and he's like kidding around with the audiences, and it was fun. It was a fun experience I don't know if I can speak for all the spectators, but for me, it was definitely real fun. And I remember asking him, about his future plans, and he's like, yeah, as I said before, he's like, for us at CFC, it's just one event at a time. We're one event at a time, which is a stark contrast to other promotions, I'm not going to name names, but I'm sure there are a few who know what I'm talking about. Like, some events are like, now that we've planted our flag in this country, we already have plans of like expanding into this country in another continent, and then we have plans of expanding into this other country in another continent. Like, it's just like, I feel like they're over ambitious, and sometimes they should just try to stay in their lane first. Okay, maybe expansion is not out of the question, but like, come on, man. Like, calm down. Take it slow. Be more like Nick, if I may say so. Nick, like, after my interview with Nick, I feel like a lot more people should take Nick and like follow by his example. And I know a lot of like business-minded people won't like take kindly to that, but like, I feel like it's one of the more better ways to go, because like when you get too over-ambitious, like Icarus with his wings, when you fly too close to the sun, your wings melt off and you fall back and crash. And yeah. And but yeah, overall, Nick, despite his laid-back approach, despite his, one event at a time mantra. He still puts together great events. His fights, despite the outer appearance, they turn out to be pretty good. And yeah. And again, it was really great to see my friends from the original Morocco there. Jack, Colton, I really appreciated seeing you guys there. Colt, from now on, I'm gonna call you Little Colt Kilbasa. First we had Big John McCarthy, now we have Little Colt Kilbasa. But yeah, what Nick Lee has done with CFC, yeah, it's not like a worldwide, large-scale promotion, but he's aware of that, and he knows he's like aware of what his mission with CFC is, and that's what I appreciate about that. It's not about being like the largest promotion in the world. Hell, maybe it's not even about being the best promotion in the world, but that's what I appreciate about that. And I also love how he's not overstepping. He knows where he's at. And that is what I most respect about Mr. Nick Lee and the CFC promotion. So, I guess that about wraps it up. For today's episode. So yeah, if you've made it this far, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And for those of you still watching, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.